everyone. My name is Hui. Today I'm so happy to be here to introduce to you about the topic Q&A question. Okay, so now start.
The atmosphere was like a party. The atmosphere was very happy.
Oh,
Was the atmosphere sad or happy?
the atmosphere was happy.
The atmosphere was happy. The atmosphere was like a party.
Oh,
What was like a party?
the atmosphere was like a party.
The atmosphere in the cemetery was like a party. Where was the atmosphere like a party?
The atmosphere was like a party in the cemetery.
In the cemetery. Right? The cemetery. The atmosphere was like a party in the cemetery. Was the atmosphere like a party at my house?
No, the atmosphere was like a party in the cemetery.
No, not at my house. The atmosphere was like a party in the cemetery. The atmosphere was not like a party in my house. So the atmosphere was like a party. There were people everywhere. Families were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors.
Oh,
Where were the families sitting?
The families were sitting around the grave of their dead ancestors.
Around the graves, right? They were sitting around the graves. Who was sitting around the graves?
The families were sitting around the grave.
The families, right? The families were sitting around the graves. Were they sitting around the trees?
No, they were sitting around the grave.
No, they weren't sitting around the trees. They were sitting around the graves.
Yes, they were sitting around the grave.
So, where were they sitting?
They were sitting around the grave.
Around the graves. Families were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors?
Yes, they were sitting around the grave of their dead ancestors.
Yes, they were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their friends?
No, they were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestor.
No, not really. They were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Who was sitting around the graves?
The families were sitting around the grave.
That's right, families were sitting around the graves. Whose graves were they sitting around?
They were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Whose graves were they sitting around?
The dead ancestors.
Yes, their dead ancestors. Their ancestors. Their ancestors' graves. They were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. Were they sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors or the graves of their friends.
They were sitting around the grave of the dead ancestors.
Ancestors, right? They were sitting around the graves of their dead ancestors. They cleaned the graves and added fresh flowers.
Oh,
Who cleaned the graves?
they cleaned the grave.
That's right, the families. What did they add?
They add fresh flower.
They added fresh flowers. Did they add food?
No, they added fresh flower.
No, they didn't add food. Did they add money?
No, they added fresh flowers.
No, they didn't add money. They added fresh flowers. What did they clean?
They cleaned the grave.
They cleaned the graves. Whose graves did they clean?
Their dead ancestors' grave.
Their ancestors, right? They cleaned their ancestors' graves. Where did they add flowers?
The grave.
Where? Oh, they added flowers to the graves. That's right. They cleaned the graves and added fresh flowers. Very good. I walked through the cemetery and admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers.
Oh,
Where did I walk?
I walked through the cemetery.
Through the cemetery. I walked through the cemetery. Did I walk through the park?
No, I walked through the cemetery.
No, I didn't walk through the park. I walked through the cemetery. Where did I walk?
I walked through the cemetery.
Through the cemetery. Who walked through the cemetery?
I walked through the cemetery.
I did, AJ. I walked through the cemetery. Did I walk through the cemetery or did I walk through the park?
I walked through the cemetery.
I walked through the cemetery. That's right. And I admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers.
Oh,
Did I admire the beauty of the trees?
No, I admire the beauty of all colorful flowers.
No, I didn't admire the beauty of the trees. Did I admire the beauty of the children?
No, I admired the beauty of all colorful flowers.
No, I didn't admire the beauty of the children. What did I admire?
I admired beauty of all colorful flowers.
Flowers, right? Yeah, I admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers. Who admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers?
I admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers.
That's right, AJ, me, admired the beauty of all the colorful flowers. Where were the flowers?
In the grave.
Yeah, on the graves, right? Or in the cemetery, right? The flowers were on the graves in the cemetery. Were the flowers in the park?
No, on the grave in the cemetery.
No, they weren't in the park. Were the flowers in my house?
No, on the grave in the cemetery.
No, they weren't in my house. Where were the flowers?
On the grave in the cemetery.
The flowers were on the graves in the cemetery. Where did I walk?
I walked through the cemetery.
I walked through the cemetery. When did I walk through the cemetery?
November 1st, Day of the Dead.
November 1st, the Day of the Dead. Right, November 1st, the Day of the Dead, I walked through the cemetery. What was the cemetery like?
The cemetery was like a party.
Like a party. It was like a party. The cemetery was like a party. Was I curious about this holiday?
Yes, I was curious about this holiday.
Yes, I was curious about this holiday. Which holiday was I curious about?
I'm curious about Day of the Dead.
Yeah, the Day of the Dead. I was curious about the Day of the Dead. So I walked through the cemetery. There was also color in the sky.
And that's all about my sharing. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye.